those are those are the steps. Now, you may not need all three of those. I mean, one of the examples that I use is that, somebody comes to me who's maybe been mugged, right? Somebody's put a gun in their face and said, you know what, give me your money. And they give them their money. And they come to me and I say, how can I help you? And they say, well, I can't get the picture of that gun out of my head. There's this intrusive image that just keeps popping into their head and they want to be done with it. So we can use thought field therapy to eliminate that image and to make that go away very quickly. I've done it lots of times. And then I say to them, what's next? And they say, well, I'm going home, because they're done. They know what happened to them. Some guy came up, put a gun in their face, and robbed them. And they don't need to go into a whole lot more detail than that. They know that they did the right thing. They gave it up, and they're glad they did. And when you say, well, what does this mean in terms of your relationship to yourself and to your loved ones and to God? They say, well, my loved ones were real glad that I didn't get hurt. I'm real pleased that I managed myself as well as I did. And, me and God have been fine for a long time, and this doesn't seem to affect how I feel about God. And I hope it doesn't affect how He feels about me. And they're done, and they go on. And, and that may be what it is for some people. I've had people come to me and they'll say, well, I got mugged, and I'll say, well, how can I help you? Having some bad dreams or something? And they say, no, none of that. I just, every time I think about it, I feel guilty, like I should have done something different. Okay? Well, that's that second phase where they're trying to work through what happened. Okay, so let's sit down, let's talk it through. And what advice would a cop give you about how you should conduct yourself? Well, so you talk about it. Maybe at the end they say, you know what? I don't need to feel guilty about that. That's what everybody would do. Now, we didn't need to do tapping. What we needed to do was give them some more information. So depending on where people come from, it depends that. I have had, people who have been involved killing, and many years after, and they come to me, and it's not the intrusive images. It's not even that they're uncertain about what they did or how they did it. But they come to a place where they say, I don't know what this means about me that I've done these things. And, and I'm at a point in my life where I'm now thinking about that. Where they didn't think about it in their 20s, or they didn't think about it when it happened, but they are thinking about it now. And so then you begin to work with them in a way to say, well, let's talk about who you are as a person, and what meaning this had for you when it happened, what meaning it has for you now. And what do you need to do with it? What do you need to do to make yourself right with yourself and with the people you love and with God? And to begin to think about that. Now, a lot of times that ends up being the kind of situation where I'll send somebody off to talk to a minister or off to talk to a priest or rabbi, because they get into a very spiritual, religious kind of quest. And if that's what I can do is help them get to understand that that's where they're at, then I've done a good job. All of that is true for soldiers coming back. That it's not just, all soldiers need this. All Marines who've been in combat need this. It's going to depend on what they have when they're going in, what their experience is, and what they need when they come out. And they may not need it as soon as they come out. But the only way we know that is to sit down and have a conversation with them. So at a minimum, with every soldier who's coming out, every Marine who's coming out, there needs to be an opportunity for them to sit down with somebody and process a bit of where they're at and to see what they need. And not just say they all need this or they all need that. What they all need is some attention, some individualized professional attention to sort out where they're at. And for many of them, there will be a lot of symptoms that need to be managed. And thought field therapy is a way to do that. There's other ways to do it. But we owe them at least that. And then for some, they'll be fine until maybe years later on. Talking about what we owe these soldiers and Marines and sailors who come back and who have done at our request these very difficult things and have risked their lives and themselves. I think what we owe them is the opportunity to assess what their needs are and to be able to provide them with the help that they need when they need it. And it's going to vary depending on their age, depending on their experience, depending on where they're at in the process. But we know that there's lots of guys and women who need help. Just look around. I mean, and think about the vets that you know, and think about the kinds of things they do. Anybody who's drinking themselves to sleep at night, anyone who's drinking themselves to get to work or doing drugs as a way to manage their life, they're not doing it because they're evil or mean or stupid. They're doing it because they're trying to manage their life. And my experience is that people who are addicted or who are using or abusing drugs and alcohol are trying to self-medicate the feelings they have inside that overwhelm them, that keep them from sleeping, that keep them from being able to function, that those feelings of rage that they have to manage or they're going to hurt themselves or somebody else. And if we just look at the number of young people who are abusing drugs and alcohol who are vets, we right there have a good indicator of the number of people who need help. And the help is not just get off the alcohol. The help is, let's figure out what the underlying anxiety is. Let's figure out what it is that those pictures are that you need to get out of your head and how you're going to manage them. How are you going to deal with the fear that you feel about living in a world where you're not told what to do every moment, or living in a world where you don't have your weapon with you to protect you? How are you going to live with that fear without the alcohol or the drugs? There's lots of things we can do to help them.